nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this.
Welcome to SA Soccer Roundtable. My name is Harry. Joining me, Rafa. I know you're on the road. Are you in South Texas, Central Texas, or Permian Basin? What is that?
So I'm in Midland, Odessa. I've been here since Sundays. I was here for Super Bowl Sunday, so I've been out here recruiting. So today I was in Big Spring, Texas today. So out there, then I visited 5 other schools to drop off some info and finally got back in. And I got one more event tomorrow and then back to San Antonio. So I'll be at Odessa College tomorrow.
Were you cheating on Region 4 and catching some Region 1 soccer action? I believe I saw some pictures. Just saying.
Video too. I saw a PK game last night with the girls from Mojo. They tied. They were at 0-0 with Midland League girls, and then went to shootout, and they ended up winning 5-4. And then the boys. That's a team that I think the boys need to keep an eye on. Maybe I will pick them this year, maybe in the second round, because they actually look good. They can really touch the ball, and quite honestly, I think if they were in one of our districts here in San Antonio, one of the 6A districts, they'd be a legitimate threat for not only a playoff spot, for I think even for a district title. So they knocked off Lee last night 3-0. So they can really touch the ball. They're very opportunistic. They have a lot of chemistry. They have a really good attacking mid that guy can shoot the ball. And I think if you saw in the video, yeah, he almost got won by the keeper. So it's so some good football here in the Permian Basin.
And you've done some recruiting, which we have a guest head coach of Vernia. So if you'll introduce him, Rafa, and then if you'll start the questions, or they have a pretty big match for 4A District 27 coming up on Friday at home.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have to welcome Coach Amador. How you doing, Coach?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for
having me here on the round table.
Yes, it's an honor. Finally able to make it on. Been watching for a while, so yes, a big fan here.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate all the support. I love the shirt too. I guess we have a lot in common there.
Yes, sir.
Even though they tied today, they still advance on aggregate. But hey, I think the refs kind of messed up on that one call. That should have been a penalty kick. But
whenever a team
when you're Club America, you never.
Whenever a team from Rafa's loses, his number one excuse is always the referee. Never the players. It's always the referees. Whether it's Real Madrid, America.
Yeah, they usually are public enemy number one.
So welcome, Coach. Like I said here, as I mentioned kind of in our pre-show here, I just walked in from the Jay McCollum game. Which of course went to PKs because I needed to get home for that here, which McCollum upset Jay, I guess you could kind of say. So scrambling in, not the happiest, Harry, but excited to have you on. So my question is just kind of talking about, and then we'll let Rafa go into more of the coach speak and on here. But with Vernia, both the boys and the girls programs, both are very successful. If you can talk about just at a high level of what the soccer culture is at Vernia High School, because I'm assuming, I know you mentioned you and the women's coach talk, I'm assuming before games, after games, and stuff, give each other pointers and stuff. So, my question is just for a 4A school, I went to a small school, just the community aspect of it, and just the closenesses between both the boys and the girls teams that I imagine is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Community is important. We have some great parents, very involved. They really genuinely ask us what we need, and they try to do the best. Fundraising, all of that involved, and really involving Coach Coughlin. We're very lucky to have her. She came in over from Piper. She came in from there, so that was a steal right there for us to be able to have somebody with that much experience come into Lavernia. And yeah, we talk every day. Exchange ideas, going over tactics, and I think that's important. We both cheer each other on. Both teams cheer each other on whenever we are at the same site. We try to arrive. If they're playing before us, we arrive and cheer them on. Make sure that they feel the support as well as from the parents, or vice versa. They also come out and support us. But we're both really going tactically. We're both in sync, and feeding off each other is very important. I also have my right hand man in Coach Soto. He comes in, real big supporter. Kids love him too, and he really brings a lot to the table. He's kind of the quiet coach on the sideline, but the boys really respond well to him. They look for him, and you need that. You need that support while we're maybe looking at the pitch, looking for certain details. He's handling the boys on the sideline, maybe not happy for coming off, or just checking on injuries. That is very important for us.
So, coach, so far this season, how are things going on as far as the season from the start of the pre-district and now going to district started already to play? How things are going right now?
Right now, it's a good time. I will say at the beginning, because of the success that Lavernia has achieved in various sports, our football team, made it again back to the state area. Our volleyball girls also have made it to state finals. So with that said, I have several players. A starting keeper, and another striker, and a couple of other players that were on the football team. So early on, we did not have our full squad, but that actually gave the opportunity for our younger kids to really start developing. And the freshmen that have come up have evolved because they have experience at the club level, but once they get to the high school level, they start seeing the difference in the physicality and the speed and everything that comes in hand with playing at a varsity sport. So, there were some bumps and bruises, lots of learning. We took off to Alvarado this year to go and compete out there. And we still didn't have a lot of our kids back because they were still recovering from a long football season. But we went out there and we really competed. We were in all the games. We got to the point where it was like, right now, all we need to do, really focus on is scoring a goal. Once we score that first goal in an actual match, it's going to open things up. And lo and behold, it was a young sophomore that really opened it up for us. He scored, and from there, it's just been progress after progress, getting players back healthy. And now leading into district play, we knew we were going to have the best record, and I was okay with that. Even in our preseason or even scrimmages, we scrimmaged nothing but 5 and 6A schools because we know that we have to get over the hump in playing the Valley schools and maybe even playing the Austin area schools. We have to increase our speed, our game knowledge, and the only way to do that is playing tougher competition, maybe going outside of the area, San Antonio, and then coming back, and also playing the Davenports, the ones that are, used to being in that spot and really can elevate our game as well.
So, do you think that influenced like playing those teams for, like, especially the run you guys did last year? Because I
Mhm.
know you guys went pretty deep last year in the playoffs, and from
Yes.
seeing that type of competition, was that kind of like the main focus coming into this season? Hey, we need to play these type of teams to get us prepared, so that way when we do get to this, if we do this, make it this far, we're not caught off guard with the speed of the speed of the game and so forth. That we know who we can, how we match up with those type
Yeah,
of teams.
absolutely. All of that comes into play, and I'll even take it even steps back. I'll take it to my first year that I had the boys. I actually coached the boys and the girls together for 1 year, and the one that really made me strive for more was Bernie and Coach Strong. We met them in the playoffs, and they really gave us a good licking. And that let me know that I had to work more. Our boys needed other different competition to be at that level. To be considered even in the same sentence as the Bernies. Of the world. Now they have moved on to 5A, and they're being very successful out there. But that's a great program to model after. Coach Strong has a great program, and the few times that I've spoken to him, he's a great guy. Gave me great advice, and I ran with that. I also took in consideration what Coach Carranza built before when I was still with the girls 100%. He had a great program, lots of discipline. The boys knew what was expected, and they still do. There are still high expectations, and we know that the future must be built off of what happened in the past, but it's got to progress each time. We can't be happy with staying at the at the regional side where we've been eliminated the last 2 years by the same team. And we
Mhm.
hope that we can finally get past that. Um, I don't think we have as an experienced team because of the young kids that have joined us, but they have really evolved, and the upperclassmen have really taken them under their wing and kind of showed them and told them what's expected and modeled what is expected to play at this level and to be successful at this level. So all of that comes hand in hand, and just even with the traditions, we have a great tradition. After every win, our boys, you wouldn't figure Lavernia, Texas, right? But they sing Cielito Lindo, right? And that started
But I
back.
did get to hear that.
Yes, they that's been way before me. I had nothing to do with that. I think it was even way before Coach Carranza got there. That one of their players that came in, last name De La Torre, he actually was one of the ones that started that, and then unfortunately passed in Mexico. So we continue to sing it
Mhm.
in his honor too.
It's a good way to honor. Yeah, because I was there on Friday's game. So
Hmm.
right afterwards, when the players went to the parent side and all that, and started
Yes,
singing and say, "Hey, that sounds very familiar." So
yes,
that was
Cielito
great. That was
Lindo.
great. A little nice little tradition there for the players. So that's good to hear from them.
It is,
So,
and
but
some I've known that some fans kind of get offended by it. They might think that we're making fun of them because it says "Canta y no llores," but in reality, we're actually honoring that young man.
so go ahead, Harry. Here you go.
So
Any questions there?
yeah, my question coming up this Friday, big
Yes,
match against San Antonio Cole. A second year program in the district, not necessarily second year playing, because I think Rafa mentioned that they played beforehand for that here. But just to kind of set up the match between Lavernia and Cole, both teams, 1 and 2 in the division. However, Lavernia will be going D1 in the playoffs. Cole will be going D2 in the playoffs. Based on the attendance for the that
correct.
USL puts out. But can you kind of talk about the? I don't know if it's a rivalry, but Cole has stepped in. They were successful last year in their first year program, and obviously have continued this year, and the matchup that it brings for the Bears.
Yeah, Cole, like you said, they are not new to success. I've actually we played them back 3-4 years ago when they still weren't considered through UIL, but we still played them in tournaments out in Pleasanton. And ever since then, it's always been close matches. Um, I remember, I think the first two times we played them, the score was always 4-3, 4-3. And we got lucky, and we took those games. And then last season, they're the ones that handed us the first loss on a Valentine's Day as well. So it's almost a year ago that they handed us our first loss, on the road, but it was a loss. But Coach Caldera, he does a great job. Very disciplined man. Those boys, they run through a wall for him. And we know what to expect now. We know those kids are not going to let up, but our boys have prepared for a match like this because we knew. And I think I heard one of you guys mentioning that we had that game circled. We did. We have several because in our district it is just a tough matchup every week. Every week we can't take any nights off, and even last week we went down early to Memorial in the first half, and our boys responded second half, and we pulled it out. So it's something that our boys have embedded in them, that it does not matter. You compete at each time, and you have to in this district, and you absolutely have to against Cole, because they will not stop. I guess it's that military upbringing that a lot of those boys have, but they do not stop. And we are looking forward to a great match, for anybody that can make it. It is in Lavernia, not too far off from San Antonio. It is a 5:00 start, so it's going to be a great matchup for everybody and anybody that can attend.
So should be a good one. So let's talk about Friday's game, because I was there Friday, covered the game because one of our key or three key games there. Down early, but like I said, come back. Come back down another game, came back and got the win. How did the boys feel about being able to come back after being down 2 times?
It's like I said, we battle. Every practice is a battle, and I tell them the games are won here at the practice field. You can't expect to have a week practice or take a day off and then expect to turn it on in a match. It does not work like that. Soccer is too long, 40-minute halves, and it's going to be up and down. But you have to do that, and I think what I've noticed most right now is our upperclassmen don't let the younger kids get their heads down, and they have to pump them up and let's go. And there's still a lot of time. And that's the first thing I told them when we were scored on early. I was like, look at the time, relax. We still have the whole first half to play. We know that they have some speed demons up top. Those kids can run. And they do not stop either, So we knew that we had to adjust our defensive strategy to fit what Memorial does with all that speed that they have. But we knew that if we can neutralize it and gain the ball possession is the best way to really slow down somebody with a lot of speed, and that's what we're really focused on. I really don't believe in the long ball. I prefer more possession base, but possession base with more penetrating runs and not just tiki-taka, just to pass. It's more of a attack minded, nothing there, reset, look for the next gap, and our boys really did that. And I think once Memorial saw that we scored on them the second time, they weren't ready for that, and we just kept attacking and thankfully a senior stepped up, took a good mid-range shot that just dipped into the bottom corner, and we held on for life after that. And I knew the fans knew, the boys understood the magnitude of this game because Memorial has had lots of success, and Coach Aleman probably won't want to hear this, but we were going for our 5th straight win against them. And it goes back to the first year that I took over. He had my number. He beat me the first 3 times that we played him. And then after that, I adjusted, and the boys adjusted, and we're all better for competing against tougher teams like that.
since you've taken over, has the district gone a lot better as far as the competition wise? Because I know last year I was there last year when I talked to you.
Mhm.
You guys face a really good also Kennedy team, right? So
Kennedy
Kennedy's
team,
got a
yeah.
good squad. Yeah, so they have a good squad. Have you seen that getting better the last couple of years?
It has, and it goes back to me saying that every week there is a challenge. That we can't take it off. Whether you go playing Gonzales, now you travel to Luling. You got to go out to Yoakum. You take the schools in the San Antonio area, having the inner city kids. A lot of them probably don't play club, but they're out in the streets, they're out in the parks playing. So that in itself is a great advantage. I grew up in the inner city of San Antonio myself. Shout out to Thomas Jefferson High School. That's where I graduated, back in 2000. But, I grew up in those kind of areas, so I understand what playing soccer is at the park, and all those kids do that. So, all these small towns now that we go to, soccer is being played. It's a fast growing sport, and people love it. It's not as expensive as other sports. All you need is some shorts, a t-shirt, some tennis shoes, and a ball, and you're good to go. So that I hope it stays that way. It doesn't get expensive. But going back to with a district, it's a gauntlet. No matter where you go, you're going to be in there for a tough matchup, and especially when you play the small towns, the towns take their pride in any sport that they're playing. So you feel you're getting off the bus, and they're already, they're already hassling you and trying to rev you up, and it's just like, hey boys, we're just going to the field, we warm up, and we do what we have to do. But it's good to see that everybody comes together, and the same thing when they come to Lavernia. Our fans are very loud, and they're there to support the boys, and that's the biggest thing that I always tell them, to be there to support them. Be there to support them and pump them up, because they deal with enough on the field as well. So yes, absolutely, our district is one of the toughest, and it's grown, and it's just going to keep growing and getting tougher. It's definitely not going to get any easier.
Yeah,
Speaking
you have
of
teams
district
like
with
that.
Realignment.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead,
No,
Ron.
go
No,
ahead,
I was
Aaron.
going to ask,
No, go ahead.
have you heard about realignment? Because we were trying to piece together the 4A, and there, just with the 2A, 3A schools, we were looking at what volleyball, basketball
Right.
for that here. I don't know if you can say anything or not say anything, but have you kind of heard how much change is going to be coming?
We have not heard much to nothing. We have speculated as well, Coach Coughlin and I. A little inside look at how our conversations go. I'm off fifth period, but she comes into my classroom because she has a class that comes into my class for fifth period. That is, it's like a college level course, right? So she and I, we have conversations. We try to think of schools that are possibly in our radar. We talk about coming back and playing the schools like Floresville, Pleasanton, schools like that. Now that Navarro is actually opening up their soccer program full on next year, but also now in Castroville, they opened up a new high school that's also going to be 4A. So, it just depends, how Pearsall, how Poteet do, they're going to stay in it. And, we're all speculating. We're trying to draw maps of where it would go if, Gonzales and Yoakum are going to go back south. So, we're just having conversations, but we don't know. That's why
You're
we're
doing what
trying
we're
to
doing, trying to
we're trying to piece it together, 1 week at a time. And having a person like that, like Coach Coughlin, really helps out. She's a full on soccer person, and we share great stories and tips on each other and how to help out. And we actually help out each other. Not many know that, she comes out in the mornings and helps out with my varsity boys, or even the JV. And then I come out in the afternoon as well and help out with the girls as well. So, we're both looking forward to it. We're ready. We're hoping by, sometime in April that we do find out who or where we're going to be headed to.
Yeah, because I was looking at some kind of kind of that we were kind of toying with the ideas of what what teams might have go there and so forth. I know like Gonzalez probably be maybe with you guys, or unless they ship them out east, which I don't I
Yeah.
don't see them going out there because I saw I noticed that Walter has a team now.
Okay.
I saw them play like kind of like a kind of independent schedule. I recently saw Centerpoint play.
Yes.
Talk to them. They're 2A playing. They played Holy
Yeah.
Cross when they went to that game, but they're going to be in varsity play and stuff. Do you anticipate maybe? Have you heard any news? Maybe some other high schools have thought about maybe adding. I know you mentioned Navarro.
Yeah,
Maybe like a
Navarro.
Cuero
Like,
a Cuero
Cuervo is
or
one that I'm actually shocked that they don't have soccer.
Mhm,
Not It's a good sized town. When I've gone to football games, when
mhm,
Lavernia has played, it's a good sized, nice town, and I would figure they would have soccer, but I haven't heard anything. I know back when I first started at Lavernia on the girls' side, they had Marion was on our district, but they never had a team. So I don't know if that's in the works as well, or if it was in talks. But this
mhm.
I'm talking about back in 2019. So I don't know. Fast forwarding to now, I don't know if they're going to do it because it's if you've gone through Marion, it's a growing town as well.
Yeah,
They're
I
very,
was
very
there.
close to Cibolo. So all of that is going to play into part, and it's gonna I think it'll send Marble Falls, even keep them at the Austin area and keep these schools closer. And we have so many schools now in our general area that'll give us good competition that, maybe schools don't have to travel as much.
As like speaking like with the in the valley, they have all those idea schools on there, those
Yeah.
the 4A districts on there. I know here in San Antonio, we've seen the idea schools kind of popped up here, so maybe possibilities of seeing them, and maybe even Grey Hearts. I think they mentioned about
Yeah.
I think one year they did play I think 4A level soccer. So the sport is growing and stuff. And do you anticipate maybe seeing in the future like a 3A soccer? Or do you think maybe it's or better for the 4A to be maybe actually do get the split, get the D1 and the D2 split with the districts?
Yeah, I think until 3A really becomes its own entity, until that happens, I think we have to split the D1s and the D2s. The D2 stay with the 3A schools. That would be the perfect world, but we have to consider all the travel, all of that. Especially soccer is a sport that you play 2 games a week. So how far do you want to travel on a Tuesday? When we have to travel, I think in our schedule I checked, and we travel to Gonzales on a Tuesday. Um, so we have to get the kids out early and then come back kind of late and then still have practice. We have practice in the morning, so we have to adjust to those kind of situations. But like I said, yeah, in a perfect world, when 3A finally gets enough teams, they would be their own entity, and then 4A would be the still Division 1 and Division 2. But up until now, and who knows what UIL is thinking right now, if they're going to keep all the Division 1s together and all the Division 2s together, including the 3A. So, we're always the last ones to find out, and we just go with it from there.
So go
Any
ahead,
other
like I say,
questions you have for Coach there, Rafa? Oh,
for
sorry.
us. Well, I was gonna ask him about the as far as the community there in Lavernia, how have they embraced soccer there? I know, like I said, the football team. I know they've gotten success the last few years.
Yes.
How's the community really embrace the sport of soccer there in Lavernia?
I think it's doing a lot better nowadays, especially early in the fall. Even when kids are playing football, there isn't a part of the park because the park is directly behind the high school or what connects to the high school. But you go
Mhm.
there and then you go to our old practice grass field that's over by the primary, and there's kids playing, being coached soccer. The little toddlers, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Lavernia started a small club team as well. that has both a boys division and a girls division. I haven't seen much just because I've been so busy now with soccer has started, but also St. Anne's Church also has a league there where they go and compete. So I mean, it is growing. The community has really accepted it. Both Coach and I, we do our part in sending out information to the newspaper. We have our youth night, which also Friday for the boys, it's a youth night. So we invite all the younger kids. We go, the boys do some community service. We go and open up doors, for the kids to go to school. And we do all of that to really grow the program and let them know that, we want to embrace them, and we have our camps, and the boys also take part in the camp. So all of that, I think, is what's helping grow the sport in Lavernia, because we're getting, Lavernia is starting to grow as well. There's people coming in, and there's people coming in already that have this soccer mentality, and they buy a house, and we're thankful for that. They move in and they're fifth graders, sixth grader. They're coming into camp, and I'm like, oh wow, how old are you? Oh, I'm in fifth, sixth grade, and I've been playing soccer. I'm from here, and it's like it lets us know that there is a bright future coming up through Lavernia, and it's not just a patch that we have right now or that we've had in the past few years. We feel like there's a good development, and we feel like if we stay involved within the community, we can help build that as well.
Okay. Any other questions, Harry?
No, I'm good, Coach. I do want to thank you for coming on. Wish you luck against Cole this coming week, and more importantly, wish you luck in the playoffs for another deep run coming up for the Bears.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the time.
Any shout outs, Coach? Like, it's a little extra time here for you guys. Any shout outs that you want to give out? I guess we give the floor right here.
Oh, yeah. Like all the people I've mentioned, Coach Carranza, all the boys that have gone through the program, have really left their mark, JT Mecki, Cameron Martinez, all those guys that really help build the program. The young man, like I mentioned, that he passed away, that really left a mark in us being able to sing Cielito Lindo, and it brings the boys together. But, Coach Coughlin, my wife, that she puts up with me being a soccer person all day long. It starts with Premier League in the morning and then Mexican League in the afternoon. So you got to have that. I have that support with my wife. I got great staff at Lavernia. Coach Noel really helps us out, really takes care of us, and makes sure that all programs are taken care of. And Coach Coughlin, Coach Soto, all those guys, they all bring a part of what Lavernia soccer is, but really Lavernia athletics. And I'll shout out to you guys, and Odessa. I lived in Odessa for a few years. I went to UTPB, so I know my area around there pretty well. So shout out to those, the Permians, the OHS, Midlands, and all that. All great places to be at, but there's no place like home in the San Antonio area. So also Thomas Jefferson, always in my heart.
Steve Sanchez, he's an alum from Jefferson. He actually played in high school for Jefferson too. So
shout out and my buddy Roberto Jaramillo, that's up at Texas A&M San Antonio. We were both teammates in high school. He's done a great job out there.
I coach club with him with Ime. Yeah. So I coached with him for a while. So
So all those people.
I bumped him a couple of weeks ago. It's like they're at one of the Southwest games there. So he's built a good program. He's built a really good program there.
He does.
In San Antonio. I think they're about to get a new field too, because I saw the new track field they're building.
Yes, I did hear that as well.
They started some new programs like cross country and track or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're starting indoor track and outdoor track. But I did see the complex that they have, so hopefully I think they're gonna play. I think end up playing there. But there's a possibility they may end up in Division 2. And any players may be being looked at as far as the college. Any players that you think may play at the next level?
We have some. Not being biased, but we do have some players
Mhm.
that have that aspiration to play at the next level. Our goalkeeper, he's a total machine over there in Lane Green. We have a big defender in Luke Lopez, and then our striker, really number 10, Emiliano Perales. That's part of the SAFC Academy as well.
Oh,
So
nice.
we do have some workhorses over there that really have made the job. Makes me look like a genius, right? But those guys really put in a lot of work, and their leadership has shown.
Well, Coach, like I said
But
here. Oh, go ahead, Rafa.
oh, no, I was going to say, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say let Coach go, but if you have another question, I'll let you go ahead and do it.
No, I was going to say, but I just want to thank you again, Coach, for your time to be on here, because thank for coming on to talk about with the program. Like I said, the Vernia's done, since the inception of the program, it's really gone straight up,
Yeah.
and it's had a lot of success. And I'm hoping, like I said, you guys go again deep again this year, get some little revenge on some team down on some of those Valley teams,
Oh yeah.
and I think it's a little it's due. I think it's time for we get some of our 4A teams, for San Antonio to get to get to state, and I think you guys have I think really built that program to take that next level. Oh,
Yes,
go ahead,
sir.
Mike.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of the Valley teams,
Mhm.
unfortunately, another incident for a certain Valley team using a player ineligible.
Correct.
Not necessarily talking about that program, but just
Mhm.
from a coaching aspect, because like my son transferred from Stevens to Jay, set out the year. Coach Poor did a great job explaining things, setting things along those lines.
Correct.
But just obviously Rafa coached at Del Rio a few moons ago. Here, you're in the current system of coaching. Just if you can, just kind of talk about from a coaching aspect of how you guys. And I know it's not just you. There's the admins behind you as well that can kind of
Mhm.
help prevent this, or
Yes.
things to look out for. Because I do, when you go through and look at the comments, to me, I think the school fairly and unfairly in some ways takes a hit,
Mhm.
from a coach, from an incident like that here. But just from a coaching aspect, and I know you guys got affected last year by it as well here. Not to pour milk on anything, but just from a coaching's view, just
Mm.
how can UIL kind of prevent it? Just along those lines here, so that way, um, the kids aren't impacted on both sides of the
Yeah.
situation.
Well, in the end, you said it, that right now the kids are the ones that get the most effect. It's the negative effect, the negative publicity. That it's probably not merited, especially the kids that are through and through from Progressive or any other town. They've grown up there and they're having to pay for mistakes. But in all actuality, our ads, we have any questions, we reach out to them. If they don't know the answer, they ask. They go a step higher. So I think in the end, if there's ever any doubt, it's always better to ask, and it's always better to contact UIL, and it's better to be safe than sorry, and end up with the negative publicity, or having your name pushed through where maybe you probably didn't have anything to do with it, but a simple mistake could have been avoided just by asking the right questions or asking it to the right people. Like I said, Coach Noel, if he doesn't know the answer, he'll reach out, and then he'll get back to us either that same day or the following day, depending on when he gets the answer. And we might like the answer, we probably won't like the answer, but now we know what steps to take. And in the end, it has to be avoided, because in the end, we're still coaching kids. We're trying to make better men, out of these kids, trying to get them into the world. And I always tell them it's not just about it's not about a sport. One day you guys will become men and have your own family, and you want to lead your family in the right direction. And if I can help you guys do that, I will. I'm going to hold you guys accountable, but it comes down to being accountable to myself and to my career, and to these boys to do right for them. So it if you don't ask the questions, it's probably because you don't want the answer. that I'll leave it with that.
Well, Coach,
Well,
I
that's
do
good.
want.
That's
Oh, go
a
ahead.
good answer.
Go ahead, Rafa.
I was that's a that's a great answer because, like I said, when I went coaching Del Rio, I had to make sure to take care of everything,
Yeah.
paperwork, stuff like that. Make sure it's. I mean, you're responsible for those young men's future too. Of them, it's like I said. I know it's a privilege to play, but it's also it's something that a lot of them are passionate about. So like I
Mhm.
said, you do have to take part of that responsibility if you don't take care of those things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But Coach, thank you for coming on. Like I said, it was a pleasure. Hopefully we'll get to do this maybe next year, as well, or maybe in the playoffs. Depending on how successful this match is. Because if it's not successful, you might be like, "Hey, I can't go to Roundtable."
Good thing there's always two matches in the district, right? So we're
Short
one
memories.
step at a time. No, absolutely, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, anytime you guys want to extend the invite, and I'm available. I'll be
Sure.
here.
Appreciate it, Coach.
We'd love to have you again. And like I said, Friday 5 p.m. at
Yes.
Bear Stadium.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
versus Colton. Okay,
Versus
so anybody
Colton.
out there have a chance to go out there, make sure to go out there, watch the game, support the Bears. If you're like I said, if you're a Cole fan, well, you're gonna be rooting for the Cole fans. But should be a great game. Like I said, you have actually two great games too, because also the
Yes.
girls too
The girls'
right
game will
afterwards at
be
7 p.m. So there'll be
7
a
Yeah, and
good
both
p.m.
of the girls'
because the
programs
girls
are
that
pretty
should be a
good
good.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have
1, 2, and both the boys and the girls. And don't
Boys.
forget, go visit the concessions. Help the boosters, or I'm assuming it's the booster club
Mhm.
that it goes to. So, whether it's cash or the little card.
It is all cash.
All
It
cash.
goes to both soccer programs. So we both come together, and then the sales are just divided, and it goes straight to the soccer program and goes right back to the kids.
So get your Frito pie or nachos and soda or water, Powerade, whatever that you get, and enjoy some good high school soccer. So do
Yes.
appreciate that, Coach. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you for coming on.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank Coach. Have a good
All right.
one. Good luck.
Bye
Good
bye.
luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
So that was the head coach from Lavernia. They got a big match coming up against SanAntonio Cole on Friday. We didn't do the 3 games, to pick here, but I think that would have been a selection for both the boys and the girls
Boys and the girls.
for that here. So Rafa, we're about 43 minutes in. Do we want to go over the standings at this point, which is what we were originally going to do this week, or because I know that'll add probably another 45 minutes to it, which I
Yeah.
know you're away and you got an early day tomorrow, I believe is what you were saying earlier.
We can do just the region 4 just really quick, just to kind of show.
Okay.
We can just show what's going on, and then we'll finish out talking what we kind of talked about a little bit about the situation that happened this week as well.
That'll actually be in the standings. I highlighted the
Okay.
team here for that here. So that is there. So let me switch this over here. So let's go through. So starting Region 4 for that here. District 25, Gerald, and I know you mentioned them earlier in the year to kind of watch out for. So far, they are
Yeah, they're the
living
surprise right now. Yeah, they're the
living
surprise right
up
now for 25.
to the district. Northeast Early College 401, Austin LBJ 5-1, Lago Vista Polar Bears a little bit, Austin Achieve a little bit lower.
That's your state champs. That's your state champion right there. They're in
Right
trouble.
now they're in the playoffs.
So
and
they're
we're
out on the
midway
outside
through
looking
the
in. Yeah.
for that here. So Burnett and Liberty Hill Legacy Ranch for that here. But I know early on you mentioned Darrell. Your thoughts on 25 for the boys?
Yeah, I thought Gerald maybe would be one to kind of contend, for a playoff spot, but they're having a dynamite season, been in first place. So, as far as the Austin Achieve, they got their work cut out, because if they don't get it together, they won't be able to defend that title.
Moving over to the ladies for 25. Liberty Hill Legacy Ranch, new school, right?
Mm-hmm.
6-0
Yeah.
Burnett, Lago Vista, and Austin Travis, and then Northeast and Jarrell kind of following up.
Yeah, I think the other surprise is you saw that Georgetown Gateway last few years they've been one of those top two teams with Burnett, but uh, with Legacy Ranch, I guess they're moving up. I think they're moving up to 5. I think believe next year, but so far I think it's that they're the surprise here in the district. I know they have a lot of good talent there in Liberty Hill, so like I said, it should be interesting to see how the second game goes against Burnett. See who wins that district title.
26 for the boys, Wimberley, Davenport, Bandera, Marble Falls, Fredericksburg. Nobody's really took control. Davenport with the 2 draws, kind of keeping everybody in. Wimberley had the early losses, but starting to get things turned around. Bandera's hanging in. Marble Falls and Fredericksburg kind of hanging around. Kind of wide open with Long Creek.
Yeah, it's still like I said, it's one of them 2 games, so it separates from first to the 6th. So no clear cut favorite. We'll see. Like I said, they're still in kind of the middle of the first half of their district season. We'll see how things shape up in the next couple of weeks.
Moving over to the ladies, Wimberley, Canyon Lake, Davenport, Long Creek, Fredericksburg, Marble Falls, and then Bandera. Wimberley looking pretty impressive.
Yeah, so far they're so good. They've gotten two big wins versus Davenport and Canyon Lake. Like I said, we'll see how the second round goes. Davenport, like I said, they had the loss versus Wimberley and that surprise tie against Marble Falls. So they got kind of some work cut out. Still early. I think it's still, like I said, I think it's still a 3-team race. That last spot, I think it's going to come down to. I think like I said, even though Marble Falls hasn't won a district game, I think they're still kind of a dangerous team. We'll see if Long Creek can do it their first year in varsity play to get that last spot.
27. We were talking about Cole, Lavernia, 2 top programs playing. Kennedy, Lowling, Memorial, close loss here against Lavernia last week. Yoakum and Gonzalez is kind of surprising how they're struggling this year, but Lowling the surprise.
Yeah, for them to be at 4th place, that's a little surprising, for them. But like I said, they started varsity play last year. They may have a shot. Like I said, it depends on coming down, towards near the end of the first round. Last week, like I mentioned, I was at the Lavernia Memorial game. A great win for Lavernia. Kind of down a goal, came back, down a goal, came back, able to pull one off. Steal a win on the road. So that's very important. Stealing points on the road always helps. But the big showdown, like I said, it's going to be Friday. So it's whoever can win that game is going to take over first place and have a kind of leg up on there. I think this is probably like a 5, as far as playoff wise, I think it's a 5-team race. So it's, like I said, it's still kind of early on.
27 for the girls, Lavernia, Cole, 1 and 2. Kennedy, Lowling once again. Gonzalez right nipping on the heels for that here. But any thoughts on Kennedy? Maybe kind of being a spoiler, or is it Lavernia and Cole?
They could be one, but I think the one that's been the most spoiler has been the Lowling girls. They got a couple of draws, and like I said, and they could be, like I said, a little surprised there. Like I said, I think people probably a little surprised they're ahead of Gonzalez and Yoakum, who were, like I said, from what they did last year. Like I said, I think this could be the year for them. Like I said, another big game too for first place here between Cole and Lavernia the Lady Bears. A win by Cole will put them in first place, and like I said, get a leg up and into the different for the district title. But should be a fun tomorrow night at 7, Friday night at 7.
28 boys, Pleasanton, Floresville, Somerset in the playoff spot. Uvalde, For that here, Hondo, Poteet, and then Pearsall. Somerset struggled in the early season, but so far district pretty competitive. For that here,
Playing a tough district, non-district schedule probably is what's helping them here in the district play. I know they have 11 losses, but like I said, that's non-district, but they're 2-2 right now, so they're in the hunt. Same thing with, but I think those were the four teams that we kind of knew that were going to be fighting it out. For those spots, and especially for the district title, I think was going to come down to between Pleasanton and Floresville.
we think the fourth spot will be between Somerset and Hondo for that here, as far as how that goes. But I will say, if Somerset does make it in, that moves Floresville down to D2 as opposed to D1 if it's Hondo. So that's one of those kind of tweener ones,
Yeah,
depending on if it's Somerset or Hondo. Because I think we both expect Uvalde to
yeah,
finish in the top
to
three.
get in.
But for that fourth slot between Somerset and Hondo, that will not only control if they get in, but control where Floresville plays in the playoffs. So interesting to see. And then speaking of 28 girls, Pleasanton, Floresville, Uvalde, and then once again Hondo and Somerset battling out for that fourth slot as well here. But your thought on Floresville and Uvalde on the heels of Pleasanton?
Yeah, I think this still, like I said, I think they'll still have a shot. Like I said, I think things can still even out. Like I said, we kind of knew it was like a three-team battle for that top spot. And like I said, it's the important thing is getting points on the road for teams against they're ahead of you. So, but right now, Pleasanton girls are playing great. Like I said, they got a leg up. Like I said, it's still not over yet. So, and like I said, we'll see if the Hondo girls can kind of maybe sneak in. Like I said, they're still within striking distance of Somerset. So that's that. Like I said, that last playoff spot still not cinched yet. So.
Moving to 29, London, Beeville Jones, and the Brutus, CC Allen, Rockport, Ingleside for that here. And thank you to FC Ingleside for putting out the standings for that here. Makes it much easier for me to follow up here. London, Beeville Jones, any surprises?
I think London was pretty much the top of the class in that district. I think, like I said, they should win comfortable unless they just falter or get hit by the injury bug. That's the thing is it's a long season, especially like I said, in a 10-team district. So anything can happen. So as long as they stay healthy, they should be fine. But I think those are probably you know can Ingleside or Rockport make moves and try to get back into it. Like I said, they're within. I know Ingleside's about 8 points away. Rockport's kind of about 6 points, 2 games. Still plenty of games to go on. But if they can't get some of those wins, it's going to be a little too late to get into that fourth spot.
I know if you follow Ingleside, they are
Mhm.
playing they are playing much better than what they were at the start of the year
Mhm.
for that year. So, but for that here now. On the ladies' side, London, Cal Allen, Ingleside, the Lady Mustangs, Toulouse Midway, um, and then Rockport, Fulton, Kingsville, King, kind of rounding out the kind of possible playoffs. Although there's a gap between Toulouse Midway and Rockport and Kingsville.
Yeah, the London and Callan. Like I said, those are your top two programs for the girls for that district. Like I said, it's always a battle between those two. Um, like I said, London definitely going to the Division Two route could be one of those favorites. That maybe you could see maybe with Canyon Lake or Wimberley. Like I said, it could be in the collision courts with them. Same thing with Callan. He said they made it to state a few years ago. They could be on a little collision course also with even the Vernia girls and also with the Davenport girls.
30, Hidalgo, Valley View, Idea College Prep, Idea North Mission, Beethoven, Zapata Hawks, it's Hidalgo and Valley View, right? And then
Mhm.
who knows what you get with the idea Beethoven type of schools for that here. But Hidalgo looks like had a rough, or probably a harder non district schedule, but in district they are Hidalgo.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is hopefully that don't happen. What happened last year with them forfeiting games and stuff. So, as long as they kind of stay out of trouble, you're at 8-0, looking good. Make sure all your forms are sent in. You know, you don't want to
We're
end up with
late
a team
now.
for the next. It'll be late. Don't want to be late too now.
So on the girls' side, Valley View,
I think the same. Mhm. I was going to
Hidalgo,
say same thing with the
Beethoven,
girls. I
Zapata.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, it's between Valley View and Hidalgo for the girls too. So those are the two top programs there,
So
and
here
then
we
the
get
usual suspect.
District 31. Progressives in red, not because they're the Red Ants, but once again they had a ineligible player. Reports are and rgvsoccerscores.com, I believe, is the one that has good reporting on it. Had another ineligible player. Just second one in a year. Um, I don't think it'll prevent Progresso from making the playoffs, obviously. But you questioned why the coach was brought back, and we're here again. My my issue is I actually put blame on UIL on this here because UIL didn't take it seriously the first time, and if you suspend the coach, or you know not suspend him as a teacher, but suspend him as a coach, where he can't be a head coach for 1, 2, 3 years, depending on whatever the level is. But something's got to be done because it it puts a negative stain on the valley, the entire valley. For that here, we don't, and I want to be very careful. It doesn't seem like we see this in other parts of the state. It doesn't seem like we see this on the women's side, or on the girls' side either. This seems to be an issue with, um, just with Progresso just in the last year, because this is the second time in a year.
Yeah, this is the thing is, I know last year we had a team forfeit a state championship, and that had to do with because of grades, because of an honors class. This situation, like, and then I was at the game last year, you know, Salado wins on forfeit because of an eligible player because of residency issues, because he transferred to one school because of personal reasons. Uh, he was told, hey, you have to sit out a year. He didn't like that. He went back thinking, okay, well, I'm going back to my my original school. I can play. Like I said, the thing is that the coaches need to understand is that they do trainings, that they do the PAP tournaments. And I know I've read some of the comments people, oh, let them play and this and that. Oh, the UIL is just targeting us and that. Well, there's rules about when it comes to residency and all that because of recruitment. You have to fill out those papers. It's black and white. And um, for them, like I said last year, what's head scratches it. He was put on probation. So if you violate that probation for a second time, that
He's
does
still
so
coaching,
the
right?
UIL. So, well, he is suspended from what
Oh,
I
that's
saw. I
right.
think it said 5 games
For 5 games, yeah.
5 games, but that's from the district committee from 31-4A. But the UIL needs to step in and say, hey, well, it was like with anybody. If you violate your probation, well, you're criminal side, you get locked up. Well, here when it comes to this, you're on probation. Guess what? Maybe you should be, you violated that probation given by the UIL. You should be suspended for the rest of the season, and then from there on, whatever here they do, if they want to ban them for a year or two. It's up to them. They have to, like I said. I know reading the comments from other teams and all that, they're upset about this, and this has gotten to the point. This is ridiculous that you know you're doing trainings for this every year. You have to make sure your papers are that. You go to your ADs like what Coach Amador mentioned about don't know something, you go ask. Go call the UIL. They have a phone number. They have an AD at the UIL. That's what they're there for. And I think for this, I think they're putting more of the presidents. I think Perez's move focus on winning a state title by any means necessary than actually taking, if they taken care of stuff the right way, who's to say, last year if they did, if he did, that player did sit out a year, who's to say they don't win the state title?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm sure they're good enough even without that player. So it's kind of the same thing this year. When I've read on some things that he transferred from a charter school, but still the rules are rules. It says there you have to sit out a year unless the committee approves it or unless the UIO approves it to let you play right away. It's like I said, that's going to be the decision by those committees. But like I said, those are the rules. You have to sit out a year. Like I said, you mentioned like AJ sat out last year. He had to play JV. That's part of the rules. So I think now the UIL after this, they have to put their foot
They
down.
have to make
And
an example.
yeah. And it's not to be to kind of prevent this. And like I said, sometimes, people do make mistakes filling out their forms wrong. That does happen. But this is more kind of looking more blatant and overlooking and putting the priority to winning instead of actually making sure things are being taken care of. Right. So I'm sure they'll make the playoffs, but that you're always gonna, like I said, other teams are gonna be thinking, are these players gonna be, and like I said, you're just putting a bad or
Well, we see
a
it in our
reputation.
chats.
Yeah,
We both know somebody that because this is the second time from the Valley schools
hmm
this year. Because I think it was a Brownsville Lopez, right? Had an issue earlier.
they had
Uh,
earlier. They had to go 0-4 because
Suspended
they had
for
to forfeit.
eight games,
He,
and we'll get to where they're at in the standings at the coming up. But to me, to me, and this is the reason why I put it on the UIL, is if you want to nip this in the butt, you need to make an example out of somebody. And the coach at Progresso, where this is the second incident in less than 12 months, that's your prime that's your prime case right there, where you can do it. Nobody will really outside of the parents and Progresso, but even then, I think if they really kind of step back, they'll understand. But moving on to the girls, because I don't want to delve into it too much for 31 girls. Raymondville, Edinburgh Quest, Edinburgh Idea, Progresso, Lyford Bulldogs, 8, and Alamo Idea CP. They've eked into the playoffs previously, so don't look at them out. But your thoughts on the Bearcats?
I think good season for them. I mean, I think they've kind of the last few years they've been really kind of the dominant team. So we'll see how far as they can go in the playoffs too. That's the other thing. So especially to play some of the teams up here in the San Antonio area. So
And there'll be a
good
D1
good
team
good
for
year for
that.
them. Yeah, which probably be the group of death there for the girls soccer side.
32 for the boys: Brownsville, Riverview, La Feria, Port Isabel, Brownsville, Jubilee, Santa Maria, Brownsville, Frontier, College Park, even Robindale from there at 10 points. So I think the top two are probably pretty safe, but that final spot with Brownsville, Jubilee, Santa Maria, the two Brownsville Idea schools, still a lot of work to do.
It's pretty competitive. You can see it's pretty competitive district. There's like a uh, 3-game gap between from first to 7. So I think it's going to come down to, like I said, who can win at each other's places and so forth. But I think eventually, like I said, the last few years, I think Riverview has been the kind of the top team for the boys in this district.
And thank you to RGV Soccer Scores for the standings. It does make it much easier to kind of keep track of it. For the ladies, Brownsville Idea Riverview, Jubilee Rio Hondo, Port Isabel, and then Robindale for that here. Santa Maria is listed, but doesn't. I don't know if they have a girls program. And looking at their attendance, I'm wondering if they just didn't have enough people that showed up. But it looks like that. The top two spots I think are pretty clear. The bottom two spots, we'll have to see how the second round works through on this district. Moving to 5A, where things get a little bit clearer. Leander Rouse, Cedar Park, Liberty Hill, Lockhart, Leander Glen, and the Lions all kind of hanging in there.
Yeah, the surprise is Leander Rouse. They're having a great year, undefeated district play. We know Cedar Park always has a good team year in year out. Liberty Hill, you're defending 5-1. You're defending 5A champs, still in the playoff. Like I said, in the playoff hunt. Lockhart, good season for them. Like I said, they're in the mix. The surprise is Leander Glen. They're being in fifth. As for the success that they've had the last 2 years, they may be rebuilding. Like I said, they maybe have a young squad this year. Like I said, I know next year, like I said, they'll remain in 5A. But like I said, they're still within striking distance of getting to that fourth spot.
Moving on to the ladies from 25, Cedar Park, Leander, Liberty Hill, Abuda Hayes, and then Rouse, I guess, and Glen kind of fringe on there, but Cedar Park, the favorite, or is Leander, you think, can not catch up, but they're half a game out?
Well, Leander was leading the district, but it looks like Cedar Park, like I said, after a loss, they've come back, they kind of roared back, and now, like I said, they've taken the lead now. Like I said, because they have a big target on the back. They're the ones that knocked off Wakeland. They're the defending state champs. But we know this district's tough for the girls side. It's year in, year out. We've had a state champion or a finalist come from the district. Same thing with the Liberty Hill girls, always tough. The big surprises, it has been the Buda Hayes Lady Hawks. Like I said, they've had a great season so far. They're trying to kind of hold off the Rouse Lady Raiders. Like I said, it's gonna be interesting matchups because if this stays here, Leander and Buda would go to the D1 route. So you probably Mid Simpson Valley will probably play the Swinson Galley girls will probably play Buda Hayes, and then the Leander Lions will play. I think the second place, the 2 seed of the D1, and then you have Cedar Park, Liberty Hill being represented the D2 spot.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Well, I think Cedar Park's going to go D2.
Yeah, and that could change if maybe.
D2.
Yeah.
No, they'll go D2 because only Liberty Hill.
Yeah. Liberty Hill. Yeah. So Liberty Hill and Cedar Park go D2.
26 boys, Piper, New Braunfels, Bernie, Smithson Valley, Tivy, champion. Champion should be in sixth for their fifth, and Tivy in sixth for that here. But the bottom, I think, is kind of congested as far as for that fourth spot. I'm pretty, I think we're both pretty comfortable in Piper, New Braunfels, and Bernie. Kind of making in, but the second round on this is always there's always a couple upsets that come into play.
Yeah. Well, you saw, like I said, Steve was at the Piper game against Bernie, and they, like I said, Piper had a big win. I know they had some player. I think both teams had some player outs because of illnesses, but Piper made a statement. Took full control of the district lead. But we also, I remember mentioning Coach Strong being on 50-50, mentioning, but New Braunfels being a very dangerous team. They said, like I said, don't let that record fool you. Yeah, so they're nipping on the heels of Piper there. Bernie, like I said, with Coach Strong, I know that tough loss for them, but they're still in the mix. And that fourth spot, it could come down. Like I said, I think champion Tivy still have a shot to catch up to Smithson Valley. So I think those 3 teams are really going to make things very interesting. Who gets that last spot?
If Tivy sneaks in, then that changes things on who goes D1 because
Mhm.
Piper would go D1 as opposed to D2 for that here if it's Smithson Valley. So
Which
you know,
was what happened last year too, with I think with Alamo Heights going in, and I'm a little surprised Alamo Heights might be struggling right now, so it might be could be a rebuilding there for them this year.
moving on to the ladies, Smithson Valley, Rafa's number one team on the ladies side. New Braunfels, Piper, Alamo Heights on the girls' side, Bernie on the outside at this point, and then Bernie champion Tivy with that here. Are you ready to say it's a five-team race? Or are you still putting Bernie champion in for that
I
fourth
wouldn't
slot?
count out Bernie Champion out if they can get some wins. You know, I mean, get a little hot towards the second half of the district play. So anything's possible, but I think for as far as district title wise, it's like I said, it's Vincent Valleys. I don't think anyone's going to challenge them. Um, is going to come down to who for them right now. The way it looks like I said, Cincinnati Valley and New Braunfels will go to the D1 route, and then Piper and Alamo Heights will go to the D2 route. Even if Bernie gets in, this will be like I said. It really want to change as far as who goes D1, D2. The curveball could be possibly maybe Bernie Champion, but we'll see if they get in.
No, it actually wouldn't, because New
Well,
Braunfels and
if it
Smithson
knocks one somebody,
Valley are both D1.
if no Braunfels, if no Braunfels comes out, like I said, if they kind of lose out and so forth. Like I said,
Yeah,
we'll see anything can happen in that second half. So
but yeah, it's through there. But through here, 27 boys: Lanier, Jefferson, Highlands, Brack, Seguin, Edison, Burbank, and then it drops off from there. But Lanier looking good, Jefferson
mhm.
looking good, and then kind of Highlands, Brack, Seguin, Edison, even Burbank, kind of in that race for the final two spots.
Yeah, you can see. Well, like I said, Lanier's been the top teams even from last year. This year, they're still holding it down. Jeff, I think they started out slow. Now they're kind of soaring because they're kind of roared back. They got back into play. Like I said, just have a game behind Lanier, so they still have a shot for the district title. Highlands, like I said, has been one of the surprises this year. They're in contention. Same thing with Brack. A little surprised that Edison's down. Like I said, there could be maybe some injuries that's kind of holding them back a bit. Because even like with Burbank too, Burbank had a great year last year. They're kind of down this year as well. So, um, like I said, the second half is going to, like I said, it'll be determined. It'll be interesting how if the teams can kind of get it together, see who can get into the. I think the last two spots, but I think the first two spots I think pretty much are going to go to Jeff and Lanier.
27 for the girls, maybe a little bit clearer picture. Highlands, Seguin, 7-1 each. Brack, Edison, 5-1-2 each. Jeff at 3-3-2, and then kind of through there. But to me, and I know we're kind of midpoint here, where most teams have played their 8 games for that here. But top four pretty secure, or anyone that you think that Jeff can kind of pass.
I think if Brack or Edison has a kind of total collapse, I think that's the only way Jeff can kind of get in. They would really have to do themselves some favors and try to win a games against one of those the top four to really kind of be able to to get into that playoff spot. But like I said, the big surprise has been Highlands this year. Great run for the Lady Owls. It's going to be interesting if they can who wins that district title between them and Seguin. But like I said, Brack and Edison still win the striking distance. So I think things can change in the next couple of weeks.
Moving to 28, Southwest, clear favorites. They haven't started their round 2 yet. They start on Friday against Jay. Legacy, Jay actually is at 19 points with the loss tonight. And then McCollum moves up to 8 points for that here. To me, like I said here, just haven't seen all the teams at this point here. Feeling pretty confident that the top 3 will make it. Southside's been kind of the surprise
Hmm.
through here. Harlandale also through there, and Eagle Pass win or CC wins also been much improved this year compared to the last one. But to me, like I said, I think Legacy Southwest. I think those two will clearly make it. Barring injuries and the collapse from Jay, I think that they make it. So it really, to me, it comes down to Southside and Harlandale for that last spot for the boys.
Yeah, Southside had a big win, even though it was a PK win against Over Legacy. So that's stealing
Mhm.
points against teams that are ahead of you. So that factors in. So that's going to help out, especially like I said, now starting this second round. So, like I said, unless Jay doesn't collapse, like I said, I think they're still in a good spot. I know they have a tough one coming up, at Southwest, but strange things can happen. You never know. So anything, like I said, if you can bounce back. I mean, like I said, you still have to play the games, and like I said, you just can't be intimidated by anybody, no matter how far they get. You still have to play the game. So, sometimes the ball can roll for in your favor, and think you can steal a point on the road and can help out. So, but I think, like I said, the fourth spot, I think it's really going to come down to really, I think Harlandale and Southside. But like I said, kudos to the Southside Cardinals. So they
Mhm.
really kind of came back. They've kind of rolled back into contention.
They've had a good year for
Mm.
that here, and like I said here, they are. I think they'll be a strong team to have to face in the second round. On the ladies side of 28, Southwest Legacy, MacArthur, um, and then McCollum and John Jay. The Lady Mustangs have kind of climbed back into the hunt for that fourth spot. Can't you got to shout out Sassan as well, only being 3 points back. But John Jay with uh, I forget what her first name is, but Reeves, last name Reeves, the forward, on a tear for that here, carrying John Jay back into the playoff hunt. McCollum, they beat Jay beat McCollum last night to even them up to close that gap. So I think the top three are set, but McCollum, John Jay, South San. I think that fight for that fourth spot will be interesting to see. And if John Jay is able to get it, then that can change MacArthur whether they go or yeah, well, actually no, it wouldn't be MacArthur.
No, it's just for probably Raymond. This kind of the same. Yeah,
Yeah, it would
Mac
be the
and
same
Jay
thing.
would
Yeah,
go
because
with
Southwest and
D2.
Legacy are both above that. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, the McCollum, they started out great, and now they're kind of falling apart a little bit. And then the loss yesterday doesn't help. So especially when if it comes down to goal differentials and so forth, that can come in a factor. Plus, remember they still have. I think they finish off. I think the stronger part of the teams, the teams ahead, than what I think Jay finishes. So that could come in a big factor. This come to the wire. Who gets that fourth spot? Towards the end.
and thank you to RC Audio for all the stuff that they do for District 28, both the boys and the girls, and for all sports for that here. 29 on the boys, Flower Bluff, Gregory Portland, Corpus Christi Vets, then Miller, Ray, and Carroll kind of fighting for that last spot. But top
Hmm.
three, pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. Yeah, I think those your three. I think Miller and Ray probably fought out for that, and maybe also Carroll probably fought out for that last spot.
For the ladies, Gregory Portland, Corpus Christi Vets, Flower Bluff, and then Ray King and Carroll fighting it out for the fourth spot there. Gregory Portland traditionally has a pretty good program, if my memory
Yeah,
serves right,
they're a
on the girls'
dangerous
side.
team. So yeah, they're gonna be a team to be reckoned with, especially if, like I said, if this stays on, they'll go the Division 2 route.
Yeah.
So they could do, they could be a matchup problem for one of the teams from this area.
30 boys, Palmview, Juarez, Lincoln, Nixon, Mission, Martin, Roma, the Gladiators for that here. But Palmview and Juarez, Lincoln, well, I guess Juarez, Lincoln ain't comfortable because they're only, what, 6 points,
F- 5
7
points.
points. From 12 to 19, 7 points from being out of
Hmm.
the playoffs, depending on head to head with Martin Tigers. But your thoughts on 30?
Palmview, like I said, great season for them. Usually, Juarez Lincoln is probably has been the top dog of the district the last few years, but Palmview's taking control of the district, and um, like I said, I think probably that your top two is probably going to make the playoffs. I think Nixon does make it to their strong
Mm-hmm.
team. We'll see. We'll see if Martin can catch up to Mission. That's the big thing. Can they catch up to them? And when they do face each other, there's going to be a key game. Who gets the leg up on that last spot?
If Martin does pass, then that would put Nixon at D1 as opposed to D2, where they're at right now. So
Hmm.
that's another one of those watch. And then for the ladies, Nixon, Mission, Juarez Lincoln, Mission Vets, and a little bit of a gap to Palmview.
Yeah, Palmview probably have a chance. Still have an opportunity. See if they can get some point. They can get some points in. I think they can have a chance. But I think those are the 5 teams that are going to be kind of battling out for those 4 spots.
31, Pioneer, Sherryland Pioneer, Sherryland, PSGA North, McAllen Row, and then Edinburgh Vella and McAllen Memorial, 4 points back for that here. And I guess Southwest is 5 for that here. So Pioneer and Sherryland, the class.
Hmm. Well, normally Sherland would be the dominant team, but this year their sister school Pioneer has been the one that's at. They've had the great season so far. I think that's a team to keep an eye on, which they'll be in that Division 2 route.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even if Vela would get in, they'll still be in the D2 route. So those are two dangerous teams that can come up from the valley. They're playing some of the teams over here.
31, McAllen Memorial, McAllen Row, Edinburgh Vella, and then Sherryland Pioneer. I know McAllen, both Memorial and McAllen High, traditionally very good on the girls' side. I think Row is as well, but I know McAllen High and Memorial, from
Yeah.
my memory, have gone deep in previous years.
Yeah, then because I think the big factor is if Pioneer gets into the playoffs and surpasses Vela, that could change things as far as um, who goes to D1 and D2.
Memorial.
Yeah, so that could change some things. So, but like I said, pretty much as far as playoffs locked in, it's going to be Memorial McAllen's pretty much locked in. We'll see what happens on the next go around. See when they face each other again. See if McAllen can kind of return the favor. See end up splitting the district title.
So this is one I didn't put them in red just because they weren't in the news, but Porter, Rivera, Donna North, and Harlingen South should be third, not fourth, for that here. Brownsville Lopez, 5 points back from making the playoffs after having the forfeits, and then Waslaco, Donna Redskins for that here. Concerns for Brownsville Lopez making up the gap or no?
I think they can make up the gap, even though, like I said, they had to drop all those games. I think they can make up that gap. I think they'll catch. I think eventually they'll catch up to Donna North. Um, like I said, as far as district title wise, it's a long shot. Yeah, they won't get it, but the interesting fact is going to come down to I think between Porter and Nevada. Looks like Nevada is going to the D1 route, and if Donna North happens to fall out, then you'll see Harlingen, like I said, Harlingen and Rivera pretty much stay in the D1, and the Porter and Lopez, possibly Lopez, end up in the D2 route.
Mm-hmm. Moving to the 32 girls, Rivera, Harlingen South, Ed Couch Elsa, and then the fourth spot's kind of wide open. Donna North, Brownsville Lopez, Donna Redskins, and even if you wanted to put Porter in,
Hmm.
5 point out, but at least Donna, Brownsville Lopez, and Donna North. Only 2 points separate them for, in my opinion, the final spot in the 32 girls.
Yeah, it's like I said, Aveda girls they're having a great season. They should win the district title. Um, like I said, that's a little odd because normally you would see Arlington South kind of, they've been the dominant team pretty much the last decade and so forth. And but kudos to the lady Raiders there in Rivera. I think they'll end up winning the district title. But and like I said, the last spot, like I said, it'll come down to those three.
Moving to 6A here, real quick here. What a mess! Round Rock Dragons,
Yeah,
Westwood
logjam.
McNeil, 6-1-1. Vandergrift close, half game back, 5-1-2. Vista Ridge, 4-3-1, and then the gap. But this is a 5-team race. Good luck trying to decide how the top four finish, and even if you want to throw Vista Ridge in. But to
Hmm.
me, one loss or one draw, you can see you go from 1 to 4 depending on the results.
Yeah, I think Westwood's been the team that really has surprised teams. We know what Round Rock can do too.
Mm-hmm.
I think you saw McNeil play. You thought they weren't as good as they were last year, but like I said, they found. I think they're finding a way to win games. Surprises Vandergrift being this defending state champ. Um, they're on the dangerous spot of not making the playoffs. So Vista Ridge still within striking distance. So it's gonna be interesting how the second round and then the second round, second half of the season goes for these teams.
On the ladies, Vandergrift, Round Rock, Westwood, and so those are your three clear. And then
Hmm.
Cedar Park, Vista Ridge, Hutto, Cedar Ridge for that here. And I don't know if McNeil's still in it, but Hutto, Cedar Park, Vista Ridge, and then Cedar Ridge battling. One game separates from 6th to 4th.
Yeah, from them. Yeah. So it's probably gonna come down probably to those three teams. But like I said, your top three, top heavy teams have been Vandergrift, Round Rock, and Westwood. Like I said, they've been the three dominant teams the last few years. So um, interesting matchups. How if I don't think it changes things as far as if Hutto gets in. As far as they have what 29. Does that change things for D1, D2?
Round Rock will go D1.
It looks like Westwood will go D1 at 28.
Well, if Hutto
But
gets
if Hutto
in,
goes in,
they go to
that change
D2.
that change yeah, that could change some things there. So
But Vista
that'll
Ridge
be
will be
interesting
D.
there.
Well, yeah, because Vandergrift will be D2 no matter what.
Hmm. Yeah, Round Rock would be D1 no matter what, too. Yeah.
26 boys, Westlake, Bowie, and then a drop to Lake Travis, Del Valley, Inkins, and Dripping Springs. So I think the top two, I think we can kind of say are pretty good
Mhm.
position. And 3 through 7, I'll even throw Austin Maroons in because they're only 2 games out, and still a little bit early for this district here.
Yeah, the hot team has been when I've been here has been Westlake. From what I heard, they've been turning it up and they've been doing great. Bowie, I think, I know they've had some dominant teams last year, just kind of fall short in the playoffs, but they've had a great season this year. A little surprising that Lake Travis is struggling a little bit. And then you have, like I said, there's some couple. Dripping Springs is also another surprise too. That
Yeah.
they're towards the bottom too. So, but I think it's still a tough district. So I wouldn't, like I said, you can't take any lights off with it because anyone can beat you in this district.
Moving for the girls, Westlake, Dripping Springs, Austin Maroons, Lake Travis. I think your 4 is already set. I know Bowie's 2 games back, but hard to me, hard to see Bowie making up the difference with the top 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, the big surprise has been Austin Maroons. The Lady Maroons have had a great year.
27 for the boys. Lee finishes the first round in first place. A little bit of a surprise. Reagan had a tough draw against Brandeis. Churchill had their second loss in district. Johnson and then Madison Clark and Roosevelt, struggled through the first round for that here. But surprise has been Churchill. Although, are they kind of coming back to the pack a little?
Well, they like I said, the two losses have been against Lee and Reagan, and I mean,
What
big
can you
losses
say?
too. And but but the thing is, they did get a big win against Johnson, and they came back. They were down 2-0. They ended up winning that 3-2. So that was a much needed win for them, because I think had that they lost that game, they really kind of put them in the bind in that fourth spot. But I think Brandeis, and they've kind of struggled this year, but hey, they got a draw with Reagan, got a point, so that helps there because they got a point from a team that's ahead of them. So that fourth spot, I think, is going to be between. I think Brandeis and Johnson are going to battle for that fourth spot. So, like I said, I know we're about to start round two, so should be interesting how this up. It's going to be a great game between Lee and Reagan again, because, like I said, I went to the first one, they tied 2-2. We see what kind of adjustments each team makes when they face each other again, and I think that probably whoever wins that game probably determine who wins the district title.
And this is one of those interesting cases. Whether Brandeis or Johnson determines whether Lee's in D1 or D2.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's Johnson, Lee goes to D2. If it's Brandeis, they go to D1. So that'll be interesting. On the girls' side, Johnson, Clark, Reagan, Lee, and then Lee, Brandeis, and Churchill, and even throwing in Madison. Top three fairly secure, and then the fourth spot. Oh,
Yeah.
didn't mean to hit the back. Your thoughts on 27 for the ladies?
So big win for Johnson because, like I said, knocked off Clark, so took over the district lead. I think it's still a for the district titles. It's a 3-team race between those three. It's gonna be interesting how when they face each other again. It's gonna really kind of, like I said, who can get the upper hand on that, and probably, like I said, get that district title. The fourth spot, you know, I got to see Lee play it. They're a very talented team. I think if they can, sneak up on some teams from the top, get steal some points, I think they can get that fourth spot. But also same thing with Brandeis too. Um, Churchill still has a shot, and like I said, it's I think those three are going to be kind of duking it out. Who can beat each other to get that, final spot, and that could change some things as far as D1, D2 representatives as well.
It won't, because
And what? Okay.
Johnson and Reagan are locked into D1 for that here. Clark and whoever finishes second will be D2.
As far as more like with the seeding too. So
yeah, the seeding, yes, but as far as like D1, D2, that one's gonna be set for the boys. Harlan, Warren, Marshall, Sotomayor's kind of dropping recently. Taft and Brennan, who I buried earlier in the year, are making a good comeback. I saw them. They beat. They had a pretty good win against Sotomayor. I think it was last night for their here. Connor, Stevens, and Holmes, I think, is playing out the strings. But to me, and I didn't catch because I think Taft was playing Marshall tonight, if memory serves correct. Because or now for that here, I know there was another game over at Fairs, which I didn't catch the score, but I'm almost positive it was Taft that was playing that. But 28 for the boys, Harlan and Warren. A little bit of a surprise, not a surprise.
No, not really a surprise. Like I said, this is a surprise that Warren's gotten the 3 ties, and that's kind of pushed them back a little bit because now they're, like I said, they're at 21 points with compared to the 20. So, like I said, the 25 points that actually the 22. Like I said, they're behind. I'm trying 22. Yeah, the 22. So kind of behind on that. So it's going to be interesting when they play each other again, how things change. And like I said, everyone's going to make different adjustments. And you mentioned about the Taft Marshall playing. I think playing tonight. You know how that game ended up the first time with kind of Marshall
Mhm.
routing Taft. So we'll see what type of adjustments Taft made on for this go around. The surprise you mentioned is about Sotomayor is kind of they started out hot and then now they're starting to kind of regress, and this is not the right time for that. So, and like I said, Brennan, they struggled early on, but they're starting to find ways to get some wins. They put themselves in a good position to see if they try to get that last spot as well. So. If something's not too careful, like I said, they could be out of that playoffs. And like I said, they're giving Taft and Brennan opportunities to steal it for them.
Moving over to the ladies, Sotomayor is not slipping on the girls' side. They had another dominating win last night. Warren, O'Connor, Taft, and then Brennan, I guess, and Brennan and Harlan kind of on the fringes there. Uh, to me, I guess the surprise is the Lady Red Raiders kind of still hanging on to the playoffs after all the talent that they've lost. But O'Connor, Warren, and Sotomayor, I'm in. I'll be interested to see how the playoffs match up for them,
Mm-hmm.
and how far you and Steve select them to go down or go forward in the playoffs.
Yeah, Soto, like I said, they've been the surprise this year. Great start for them. Warren, the Lady Warriors, they had a big win last night against O'Connor. So,
Mhm.
so they kind of got some little revenge from the first time that they played each other. They were able to get that game back. So, I still think it's still a three-team race. You know, can Sotomayor keep up with their level of play? Because I said they still have to face Warren, they still have to face O'Connor. You know, two losses there could get them out of that, the top spot, and then Taft. Like I said, still a dangerous team, very talented. I think more unlikely they'll get that fourth spot. And maybe and who knows? Maybe they can sneak out some people and maybe try to get into that third spot as well.
I don't know about that. I think Taft is
If
a
I
little bit
mean
thin as far as the depth.
But if they can play their tempo game and so forth, like I said, you can't take them lightly. I know, and like I said, seeing them play, they still have talent out there, and I think if they get healthy too, I think that could be a key for them. But I think, like I said, as far as the top four, I think those are the four you probably get to see in the playoffs.
So 29, Steele, Buda Johnson, San Marcos. Shirts Clemens went from seventh place to fourth place with a win after four draws. Judson's kind of fallen back. Canyon Cougars have had a tough draw to start the season
Mm-hmm.
for that here, and then East Central. Um, this this district kind of what you see, I don't think is how it ends.
Yeah, yeah, because I think they still have one game left. I think on the district. I think because they
Yeah,
play
there's still
six
one
total
game on the district.
district
Yeah.
games. They still got one game pending. Minus, I think I don't know who's already got that. Minus maybe East Central. So everyone else has got the one game left. Um, I still think it's still a wide open race. The interesting thing is that Clemens, even with the four ties, they're still in contention. Not having a loss. That'd be interesting to see what kind of moves they make in that second half of the season. Can they make the right adjustments and go keep on going up? But yeah, I was surprised that Judson. They started out great, but like I said, they've kind of fallen a little kind of here on the
In the
standings
district.
now.
Yeah.
Can they fix those things in the second half?
On the ladies' side, Buda Johnson, 4-on-1, Steele, Clemens, Canyon, Coach Cano starting to make his move. The Lady Rattlers out of San Marcos for that here. But top four, you're feeling pretty confident on?
Yeah, like I said, kind of got a good comeback. Tie against Steel. So like I said, good for good. Good builds character there. Like I said, to be down to and be able to come back. But yeah, the surprise has been Buda Johnson. I don't think anybody was really kind of seeing them to, maybe get a fourth or fourth spot or kind of in the fringes. But so far they're holding their own, and they're. But like I said, we'll see what happens here in the second half of the district play. Like I said, it's all about making the right adjustments in the second half.
So District 30, a lot of its plans tonight here, but Laredo Alexander, United, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, Medina Valley, a little bit disappointing for that here, but this one, I think Alexander's pretty safe, but when you're looking at the records, um, like I said here, to me, as far as the top four, still a lot of work be, to go through. And like I said here, I think there's 3 matches tonight that aren't equated into this for that here.
Yeah, but Medina Valley lost, I think, last night. Well, to my
Del
old
Rio,
team, I think
yeah.
we lost 3-1. So kind of put them back a little bit behind Eagle Pass. Like I said, Alexander's
this is live because I
live. Okay,
put that
so
in,
okay,
yeah.
so we'll see how that changes. I mean, that could change some things there. We'll see. But like I said, not be able to get a win, it kind of hurts them there a little bit. I think the one team I'm real surprised is LBJ, that they're towards the bottom, and the amount of talent that they have over there. I know the coach has been there for quite some time, and it's they're really kind of underachieving right now, and we'll see what they can do in that second half. But like I said, kudos to Laredo Alexander. Like I said, they're rough start from the beginning, but look, like I think that's paying off for them now in the district play.
And Steve, I updated Del Rio Queens, so that way no longer the Rams on the girls' side here. I finally got it updated, at least on this one here. But Medina Valley, perfect on the season. Defeated Del Rio last night. Alexander United, Eagle Pass. Well, actually, Eagle Pass really with 3 points, but so I think your 4 teams are set for right here with Medina Valley, Del Rio, Alexander, and United. Of course, you got to play out the string. Don't get me wrong, but a 6-point gap between United and Eagle Pass.
Yeah, I don't think Eagle Pass will catch up unless they can get some wins. They can knock off Alexander United. I don't think they got a chance to get in. So those will be your four into the playoffs.
31, Enberg, was it
Economides.
And then Enberg Bobcats, Enberg North, La Jolla, Far San Juan, Alamo. But this district, because there's only 6 teams, still very early in district. That only 3.
Yeah,
played,
so 2 more games, I think. Yeah.
So.
Enberg Economides is probably, like I said, that's the team to watch. And I remember a couple years ago, they not, last year like I said, they had a good run last year. Last year they had a good run. It looks like they could be the team to watch this year in 6A, or especially if they play more likely if that holds up, they'll be playing in the D1 routes. So
yes,
so them and also Edinburgh North too. Like I said, a couple years ago, they had a big run too to the regional final. So they always play. Like I said, it's a rivalry game between those two. The surprise is Edinburgh Bobcats. They're in the hunt. La Jolla's always had some talent. So I think they'll hold off PSGA from that 4th spot.
Moving to the girls, Waslaco, Edinburgh North, and then kind of we'll see how it goes. Everybody at 1 and 2, depending on overtime wins and losses that draw it out.
Still wide open there.
Yeah.
I think Waslaco's probably still win that district.
32, where everybody gets in except for Rafa's dad's homeschool, I guess it is. 4 teams get in.
Well, they're going to 5A next year, so hopefully that changes.
Real early. Never go against Brownsville, but Vets. But anything you want to say on this one for 32 boys?
Well, with Vets, Vets has a good program. And like I said, they've made the playoffs the last couple of years. Like I said, Los Fresnos is always in the hunt, so those are probably your top 2 teams. Harlingen, like I said, they're getting better and better. A little surprised with San Benito, but yeah, I think Hannah's really. Yeah, I'm still surprised that they're struggling. And it's a storied program. They were the first Valley team to ever make state, and they're just kind of been falling hard times, and hopefully that change of 5A, next year kind of fixes some things for them.
And I'd like to tell you that the girls are much better, but it's not. 4 teams at 3 points, and then Hannah unfortunately is not. So,
Yeah.
but Harlingen is looking at their record 12-0. San Benito and Brownsville Veteran Memorial, like I said here, solid programs. Los Fresno's getting
Especially
a win,
Harlingen.
kind of a surprise. Yeah.
Well, Harlingen's the one that's really been the surprise of the year. Like I said, they have a win over Lake Travis. But like I said, Los Fresnos always plays tough. They've always, like I said, that game is always a tough one between those two. So that game usually determines who wins the district title. And then the rest, I think San Benito and Veterans should get the final 2 spots.
So that's it for the standings where we're at kind of the midpoint, because I think spring breaks about a month from now for at least the SanAntonio schools for that year. So any team that surprises you, any story from the first half that kind of sticks outside of the Progreso and Lopez story for the year, but any team that stands out either positive or negative for you out of the first half of the season?
I think for I know for 4A girls, we kind of knew the usual suspects, especially from District 26. We know that those, with Davenport, Canyon Lake, and Wimberley was going to be a dogfight, so we kind of knew that. What I guess the most interesting one is the rise of the cool lady Cougars. They've really kind of they've been the surprise. Um, I think Luling girls too. They've had some surprise wins and some results. So I think those are the kind of the 2 big surprises. Boys side for 4A. I'm so surprised at 26 4A's. The teams are kind of like there's no one team that's been dominating. I thought maybe Davenport, for them having the tough non-district schedule, would probably kind of separate themselves, but it's still, like I said, they haven't. Same thing with, I guess the surprise has been the Cole boys. They've been, like I said, they got a big game coming up. It's a statement game for them. If they can get a win on the road at Vernia, they're going to put, they're putting everybody else on notice. Hey, we could be a team to really reckon with in the playoffs. 5A, like I said, it's been the Spencer Valley show for the girls. I think money on them. Hopefully, like I said, they get past. They get to the state tournament. Piper boys are making their kind of their run. Like I said, Southwest is Southwest. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing and so forth. And then on the Valley, I think with what happened with Lopez now, but we'll see how they bounce back from that. Can they still get into the playoffs? But you also got 2 other contenders with Rivera and Porter. They're very dangerous, especially Rivera. They could end up being on that D1 route. I know last year they got knocked out by Glenn, so who knows? They could see them play face off against Southwest. That'd be a great game to watch. And then 6A, it's interesting that you have 27 6A, 28 6A. Yep, we have 3-team rate, like a 3-team race, for the district title, and especially with the rise of Sotomayor, for the girls, it could be surprise someone in the playoffs. I think the Northeast teams kind of be wary about them, and so keep an eye on them. But then also on the boys' side, what do you say about the Lee boys? Hey, I know they're a young team, and they're in first place. They're doing well. They have a good lineup. Like I said, can they hold off? For Reagan and also Churchill again, and also Johnson and Brandeis too. Like I said, it's going to be a tough test for them to see if they can win the district title. Because I know, kind of speaking to to some people from there, they're kind of they're a little year earlier that on schedule.
Nobody
Like I
was
said, I think next year they're
thinking
going to have their
about Lee. Yeah,
yeah.
like I know we
No,
we
yeah, they're. I
weren't.
think they're a year ahead.
Um,
Yeah, I think they're a year ahead of schedule. And like I said, next year I think they're going to be a dynamite team because of the talent they have. Um, I think Reagan's still in it. Like I said, I think they got a great squad. You know, they're coached well, and they'll like I said, it's gonna be a great game when they play us again.
I
And then
still
the
keep
two team
waiting
race between
for
Harlan and Warren.
I still keep waiting for Reagan to
Mhm.
turn it on though. Like I think they got another level
Yeah,
that they can go to because you can see the talent, but I don't see the and I hate saying this because I think
the
they've got one loss
consistency.
and one draw, but just the consistency
Yeah.
of playing at that elite level. Um,
Well,
for them to
they made a run last year because I remember,
Mhm.
last year they made that winning that game against Brandeis to win the district title. So they made a run towards the end. So, maybe they're kind of saving the best for last. So I wouldn't, like I said, count them out and all that. But the key for that is can they get the win against Lee? That's the thing there. But what adjustments are made? Because like I said, that game was a back and forth game, but it was a fun one to watch, and it should be a fun one again. District 28 6A. I think it's going to come down to Harlan and Warren, even though Warren has those three ties. But those two teams, but they're very good defensively wise. So it's going to
Mhm.
be interesting who wins that one. Can Marshall's been the surprise? Can Marshall stay where they're at and get into the playoffs um, and like I said, the girls' side too. It's a three-team race there, but like I said, it's been the Soto girls. I'm real impressed by how they're playing. Who they match up in the playoffs. It's going to be interesting. Can they beat? That's the thing. Can 28 6A girls beat the teams from the 27 6A?
27.
That's kind of been the kryptonite for them the last couple of years. So until next year, that all changes next year. So but it should be interesting how this now that at the midway point, you know, we have our like I said, we kind of knew what teams were going to be in the mix, but like I said, you do have some surprises that are they're making some noise. So it should be a fun one when we get toward mid March.
Well, Rafa, it's 11 o'clock. I know you
Mm-hmm.
got a day to come back tomorrow. Um, I know, and safe travels back. Hopefully, um, the unlike the El Paso airport, was it the I-10 doesn't get shut down or through here due to a party balloon, UFOs, or whatever, drones, whatever you want to call it. But do want to thank head coach of Lavernia, Coach Amador, coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming on. I know we were going to do this tomorrow, but you mentioned you're going to be traveling back a little bit earlier than you anticipated because I think originally it was supposed to be Friday, but you're able to get out a day early
Yeah.
for that here. So do safe travels back for that here, and then show this week we haven't talked about it. I think Sunday we'll try a show with the SA Soccer Roundtable, and then probably
Fancast.
next Thursday we will do a show rankings bullseye or something. We'll go through.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll focus because we'll focus a little bit on taps. I did see that they have updated their playoff bracket, so I'll try to see if I can put that together to see if we can get kind of how things sets up depending on what my availability is. I have Monday off.
Which they're almost in a couple weeks. Yeah, in a couple weeks they're gonna the playoffs start for them in a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
So that'll be something we need to focus. But do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Coach Amador from Lavernia. If you do have the capability going out to Lavernia, please go out. Please support the concessions, as we mentioned, or as he mentioned. It supports both the boys and girls side. So get the nachos free to pie, hot dogs, whatever that they have out there, and support the Lavernia soccer programs. And you'll be seeing two outstanding high school games here. But any final thoughts for you, Rafa, before I hit the end broadcast?
I don't know. Like I said, just wonderful So thanks to Coach Amador again, and like I said, looking forward to another great week of high school soccer. And like I said, we'll also tune in hopefully for another new episode for the Fancast. I'm sure we have some updates for SAFC as well, and then I think we have the scrimmage coming. I think the open scrimmage for the STM is coming up. I think the 21st. So that's and then the jersey reveal.
Tickets, yeah. So.
Jersey reveal. I think tomorrow's to paint the tunnel. So if you're at STM, you get to paint the tunnel. So it should be all the artists will be there. I know FTC 210 Alliance will be there, drawing it up, putting the logos on there and so forth. So, but looking forward to be a fun week of soccer. So we're looking forward to it.
What's life without goals? We are out.